for a specific vendor model that we have. This is an automatic speech recognition system, ASR type of model. So I'll talk through what we've done for this this specific vendor model. Next slide, please. This case study is for vendor risk analysis. Three major questions that we have in mind when we're developing this study was here. How do we really perform testing on proprietary black box algorithms, and what can we do to check for conceptual soundness of AI algorithms? And how do we construct maybe a formation of fairness for testing? So here we're presenting a case study that we did for a real vendor model at the bank. We're not trying to present, a whole menu of possible ways of testing. This is just one way to think about how we can go about doing this, but maybe not the D way, for your use case. Next page, please. Okay, so the business problem that we have is probably very universal. We all have some type of third-party vendors for all kinds of purposes, and we know that using third-party vendors, we usually don't know the specific how the model or application was developed during the development time. We probably don't really know about details regarding the development data set that's used. So those are proprietary information and often not disclosed to the company. In the meantime, we have this application. We're using it as a customer-facing function, and we also develop quality assurances. We have compliance. We have analytics generated from using these applications, which could, the application itself can result in some impactful decisions to our customers. So here we would like to propose a framework that is a type of sensitivity testing methodology. And our goal is to identify potential weaknesses in our vendor models. Next page, please. So let's take a look at what we have in our pockets. So the first thing we know that once we have the model implemented in our system, we can feed into our own data, and we do have the performance testing. We have our ongoing monitoring in place that can help us to understand what is the outcome that can be generated over time using, internally using this model. So that can serve as one approach. The other one is what we're going to talk about today is, some type of sensitivity testing, benchmarking to poke at the vendor model and to try to assess the conceptual soundness. Sensitivity testing is just a way to measure the impact, to put it in a simple way to understand, variations in the input data and how it's going to affect output from the model and how is that going to affect the performance of the system. And on the other hand, we have our business partners to evaluate any risks potentially related to the use of the model, to identify what we call as a key model risk. And testings can be suggested around that risk that we identify. And of course, lastly, we can definitely check the data, trying in some way to understand data relevance, data drifts, and representativeness of these internal enterprise data compared with the vendor development data. Next page, please. So the example here I'm talking about today is a third-party ASR model. So our speech analytics and quality center, we rely on this vendor-based neural network model for understanding. It processes raw call center data into the audio files into either structured or unstructured data for downstream analytics. So one example use case is called acoustic model for speech analytics. To put it's a machine learning based neural network model. So the function, what it does is to simply search for phrases that you're interested in from the calls from our customers and trying to return relevant calls of interest. For instance, if you want to look for calls, people talking about COVID-19, then that can be a phrase that you're searching for. Next page, please. So the objective of this study, so we're hoping to conduct this sensitivity analysis on this acoustic model to understand if this model function actually equally or differently depending on some key elements of customers' voices. So is it less successful at identifying some key phrases for some subgroups of the callers? And our proposed method is to create. It's really an experiment design study. We're trying to recruit participants to create contrived calls for model testing. And the research plan, we are focusing on 2 dimensions of the voice that we suspect might be relevant for model performance. So these are then identified by the business. One is gender regard, for being male or female callers, or accent, which is native English speakers or non-native English speakers. So the question we're asking here is the model equally good at identifying phrases, speaking by these different subgroups of people? So here I'd like to mention, this is the construction of our fairness. So we chose our formulation of fairness to be what we call a group fairness, or we can call it a statistical or demographic parity. It indicates a discrimination against protected groups and is well-grounded in the domain of employment, housing, credit, and criminal justice. So this is the reason that we pick these groups. And the reason that we pick gender and accent is really a business decision. So this is also, we can see it as a step of scoping of the study to similar to something that our risk partner does. It's called algorithmic auditing. So it's also, you can also think of it as a use case ethics review. So it takes the form of an ethical review that considers the technology from a responsible innovation perspective by asking who is likely to be impacted and how. Another point I want to make here is why did we go with contrived calls? So the reason is we also consider production calls, but it's a lot easier for us to have volunteers participating in this study to volunteer the information, their demographic information anonymously regarding to their gender and accent. We were also able to create some test scripts to incorporate relevant key phrases. Next page, please. Thank you. So the overview of the study. So we first evaluated businesses. We had business assess the risk of the model. So this activity is kind of like we can see it as a social impact assessment. So how we want to know that how the use of an AI system might change people's way of life, maybe your community, your environment, your health, and maybe your well-being, and we want to identify them and maybe assess the severity of the risks. So here, we're purely for research reasons, want to understand what our customers are talking about. We're really not making any decisions on their credit or anything that might affect their lives. The execution, as I mentioned, so we recruited team members to call in and volunteer information, metadata about themselves. And each participant will cover a certain number of phrases that are recommended by the business. My team, we as the development COE, we designed the study and helped them to do the analysis in the end. The method we use is a very simple two-way ANOVA, and we have the predictive variables using gender and accent. And outcome is we're looking at for each caller what is percentage of accuracy of phrase identification. Next page, please. Okay, so sample size. Next page. In interest of time, so I'm going to skip this, but we designed a sample size based on statistical power testing. Next page, please. study design. Okay, next page, please. So I think this will make it easier to understand. So this is the example sample data that we're expecting to receive from our business partners. So each row will be a call, and we have the data regarding, what is the gender, what is accent, and we have our dependent variable phrase accuracy calculated by my team. Next page, please. So in terms of analysis of the results, so we look at statistical significance. So this is a very typical statistical experiment testing. So the way we check how each group are different from each other is using an ANOVA to assess the mean accuracy, whether it's statistically different across different groups of people. Next page, please. The other thing I want to mention here is something we call practical significance. This is actually the most important point that I want to make for this presentation. So the motivation of this is, while statistical significance is really important, it helps us to understand whether true effects exist in the observed data population. But the practical significance is related to how big is that effect and does it really matter for us? So it is possible that a statistical significant result will still be trivial to the interests of the business use case. And there is no statistical test that can tell us whether this effect is large enough without any business input. So in reality, our risk is often seen and managed holistically from these different perspectives. So one part is statistical significance that indicates the model robustness. And on the other hand, we want to know the practical significance, which is reflected by your business risk appetite. So, so our solution here is we leveraged something called uniform guidelines. It's published in 1978 by 4 government agencies in the U.S. So they are the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, Department of Justice, Department of Labor, and Civil Service Commission. So anyway, we use that idea to guide the decision on how do we make a judgment on this hypothesized difference. So the guideline says a selection rate for any race, sex, or ethnic group which is less than 4/5 or 80% of the rate for the group with the highest rate will generally be regarded by our federal enforcement agencies as evidence of adverse impact. So it can be guided also by your business domain knowledge or expertise, or your internal compliance policies, regulatory policies for different countries, or maybe your internal AI principles that you set up. So the point of the uniform guidelines is just a starting point, because the point is that we would like to have something that we can present to the regulators that we're quantifying our risk, and why we are presenting something is potentially perceived by the business that is less risk or more risk than others. Next page, please. So this is the sample result that might be something look like this for practical significance. So we have the different independent variables that we're looking at, and we can evaluate the mean accuracy cross different groups, and we also evaluate these differences between across different groups based on the 4/5 rules. Next page, please. So the decision rule based on the practical significance and also statistical significance. So if we have everything goes on yes, then you probably do have a biased system. You probably need to do more investigation, do more explainability analysis, and so on. And if they're both no, then you're probably okay. I think the most interesting one is the first row. that we really need to try our best to explain to our regulators what we can do on the first row. So when it's something that is statistically significant, but we're saying that, you know, if it is not practically significant, so we have the starting point, but we should couple it with our business input in terms of our risk appetite, you know, our domain knowledge, etc. Next page, please. Conclusion. Okay, next page. Thanks. So this is actually the final results from our study. We have, you can see that on the right hand side, it's a bar chart to compare the mean and median accuracies across different groups. It's fairly clear that, you know, the male and female actually differences in accuracies are actually very on par. It's very good. We don't really see, even by, you know, by human eye, that's not too much of a difference. And for between accent, we actually see a significant difference statistically. But we also check, if you look at the tables on the left-hand side, we checked our 4/5 rule principle, and then they both actually passed the test. So for specifically this model we're using, the model is actually trained on North American English speakers data. So which means that if you use this model on the population that is not using speaking English as a native language, the performance is potentially going to drop. So it's not really an expected result. But overall, the performance is fairly good. Next page, please. So the impact of this methodology. So the goal of this methodology, we really would like to, you know, present something that can be beneficial and to be able to be leveraged overall across the industry by the AI community, especially when you're in a situation that you have to deal with the regulators, and you don't know where to anchor a point that, you know, this is this something that's acceptable? So that's for impact. Next page, please. I think I'm running out of time. So applications. So I think, you know, our method can be applied to different areas in the industry, not only banking, maybe healthcare, education, or human resources, in very similar ways. So we are publishing a paper in this regard. So if people are interested, I'm very happy to share our paper. There are more details discussion about the fairness analysis that we did for this for this specific case study. So that's all for me.